Friendly little bugger. Alright guys, Papa Pepper here from the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I thought it would be good at some point to simply do a full disclosure and let you guys know who we are, why we're where we are, why we're up to the things we're up to, and a little bit more of the backstory. So I've got a 3.5 hour drive over to Bobblehead Homestead, Jeff, and I thought now would be a good time to record that. I'm not going to spend 3.5 hours making a video, but I wanted to just kind of give you guys some of the backstory. So, I'm from Wisconsin originally. I was the oldest of 3 sons, and went to school every day, got good grades. Those were the things that were expected of me, so that's what I did. But by the time I graduated high school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So rather than investing in a question mark and paying a bunch of money to go to college for no reason that I was really aware of, I just kind of started doing my own thing, got a job, doing stuff. Eventually, you know, wound up in a relationship, started acting like we were married without being married. That turned south and began to head even farther into drugs and alcohol. Did that for a very long time. Eventually moved down to the Madison, Wisconsin area. Tried to cool off because I just had such a problem. Wound up in New Orleans eventually, which didn't really help. Got back from New Orleans, ran into Mama Pepper, who's now my wife, and we entered a relationship. Quit smoking cigarettes at that time because I was a little older than her and figured, hey, if she wants to give me some time, I'm going to try to make sure I got some time to give her back. And when I first met her, I was terrified of her because I'd been hurt before. And I knew I could really go for her, and if I really felt for her, then if it didn't work out, I could really be hurt. My life made so much sense at that point that I wound up, getting her name tattooed across my chest in somebody's kitchen. And we got back to the vehicle afterwards, and I said, so you maybe want to be my wife? I mean, that's how much sense life made in those days. But God had better plans. This would have been the absolute worst decision of her life to get involved with me. She was fresh out of high school at the time. But, praise God, there was another option. So we decided to go to a church to get married. That's what people do. And in the process of heading there, we got exposed to the truth. I always believed there was a creator and something about Jesus. But at that point, I saw myself in the light of God's law. And I realized why Jesus Christ came and died on our behalf, and how we had broken God's law, and how he would hold us accountable. But he wanted to spare us, but to be a just judge, somebody had to pay the price. So it all made sense and kind of clicked at that point, and we began entering into a relationship with him. In the process of trying to love one another, we found someone to love more than each other. And now the man that God is making me gets to be the husband to my wife, the father to my children, rather than the jerk I turned myself into. And trust me, before I was a jerk. If you've not seen the video, why Papa Pepper is the way that Papa Pepper is, I explain a little bit of it over there too, because on my own, just selfish, greedy, self-centered, not a nice guy to be around. So as we began to, enter into this relationship with one another in the marriage too, eventually we realized, God is the author of life. So we began to allow him the opportunity to author life. And he still hasn't stopped. That's why we have 6 children right now. But to me, if I think somebody's a good author, I'm not going to take their pen away. I'm not going to say, oh, God's the author of life and, these things, and yet we're not going to allow him the opportunity to, author life. I think that's a line that we personally don't feel like crossing. So that's why we're allowing him to bless us with whatever children he sees fit. He didn't have to bless us with any. He's chose to bless us with 6 thus far. And if he has more plans for our future, we'll find out as we progress. At the time our oldest was 3, we were already going to things like homeschool conferences. because we kind of took a look at the public school system. We took a look at our beliefs. We took a look at a lot of things that happen in the world these days. We said, you know what, I think we're going to take the responsibility for the education of our children. I talk about periodically about just encouraging parental responsibility, and I think that the education of the children is one of those things. So my wife gave up all of her hopes and dreams. She wanted to be a dental hygienist. She wanted to, do her thing. I told her to quit her job. I'd take care of the bills. I just wanted to be there to encourage her and be next to her and help her achieve her goals. I didn't want to hinder her in any way. So I was paying all the bills, paying for her schooling. She was going to college, taking classes, and we were pregnant with Pinky Pepper, and we, kind of readjusted everything, and she gave up on her hopes and dreams. But we found out that first and foremost, we're God's children. Secondly, we are the husband and wife one to another. We're the spouse of each other. And thirdly, we are the parents of our children. Those are our top three identities. Any other identity comes after that. So whether she ever becomes a dental hygienist or not, that identity of being a dental hygienist would never trump those first three identities. So that's kind of part of our belief system, part of our foundation, part of why we live the way that we do. And we decided to homeschool the children, so the children were at home and Mama was at home. She was, a homemaker, a home educator, and our children were being homeschooled, and I was leaving for work. I had the best job of my life. It really was. At the time, I would work pretty much 6 to 1:30. I would be home at 2 every day. We had a nice little 1/4 acre in the city, a small garden, a good house. When we got the house, I was 30. Was that 30? I guess I was 30. And Pinky Pepper had just been born, so we got a 15-year mortgage on it because I didn't want to see that by the time my daughter was 30 and I was 60, maybe owning the house. I said, no, by the time she's 15 and I'm 45, that seems more comfortable. And that was the only debt we had. But I became uncomfortable with that debt. Even, when God sets the blessings and curses out, He says debt bondage is a curse. A lot of people live that life. They have debts that are curses. Absolutely. And, the borrower is slave to the lender. Oh, no one anything but love. I just became uncomfortable with it. It was the only debt we had, and probably in another 5 years I would have had it paid off. We were, working on it pretty aggressively. But by the time 2015 had rolled around, we just began thinking more and more and seeing different things. And even, Deuteronomy 6, Deuteronomy 11 says, when you rise up, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you sit in your house, teach your children my ways. In Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 45, 46, and 47, Moses is wrapping up his time as the spiritual leader of the house of Israel. They're about to head into the promised land. He's not. He lays down the law for them again. And he says, look, set your heart on God's ways and command your children to do so. It's not a vain thing for you because it is your life. And as I kind of began to allow the Lord to turn my heart towards my children, I realized, there is a lot of things that are getting in the way of my life. And a big goal of mine is to live in the present in such a way that when I get to the future, I do not regret my past. Because I hear a lot of people that are older in the generations, and there's so many things they wish they would have gotten, when they were younger. Some of the things we're up to are kind of extreme. Some of the things that we're up to are not status quo. They're not common. But I believe with all my heart that I've got to actually take steps on a daily basis to sow in the present in such a way that when I do get to the future, I don't regret my past. So it's just not what I'm looking at. It is to get there and be like, oh man, I wish these things. So we decided, I think the Industrial Revolution kind of pulled a lot of men out of their house. This is in America. And I think that the government school systems kind of pulled a lot of children out of the house, and I think that the women's rights movement, the women's suffrage movement, pulled a lot of women out of the house. Now you have a lot of people who don't own their cars, they don't own their houses, they don't own their educations, they don't own the food in the fridge, they're in incredible debt. The government, raises the kids for them. Mom and dad are locked in these wages, they're these wage slaves essentially. They both just work all day long, don't see their family, get home at the end of the day, they're tired, they've got all this work stress, they're in so much debt, they can't do anything else. And the family essentially, in a lot of ways, has been divided and conquered. It's certainly not that the average American, the average person these days, that when they rise up, when they lie down, when they sit in their house, or when they walk by the way, that they're able to be with their family. I mean, even that whole section of scripture there, I mean, it presupposes a family being together. I said, well, you know, I told my wife, till death do we part, and then I leave her 5, 6, 7 days a week. You know, it's extreme to look at it that way, but honestly. So I said, okay, well, how do we get the family together? How do we wind up actually doing the things we need to do to get the family together? And one thing we realized is that it's all possible for God, absolutely. Absolutely. But one thing we would need to do is to drop the cost of living, to have the freedom to increase the quality of life. Again, we were living off one income. We had 2 vehicles, taking trips to South Texas and Mexico on pretty much a yearly basis. My wife had a lot of family down there, and both her grandparents were still alive, and it was important for us to continually work on building those relationships by being present in their lives. And we didn't really lack anything. We were aggressively, you know, paying off our mortgage, the only debt we had. And I had an excellent job. You know, I just did. Longest job I ever had in my entire life, right? So what we decided to do was look for somewhere that we could buy land cheaper, have less restrictions, have lower property tax, have the freedom to kind of do some of the things that people used to do before they all kind of moved to the cities with all these zoning laws and all these regulations, and you need a permit to do anything with your land that you rent from the government with property tax every year. So at the end in 2015, we decided to sell our house. We moved down. We knew some people who had just moved down to the Ozarks. Moved down just to kind of, it's not something we would exactly do on our own, but we figured, well, if they're doing it and they need help and we would like help if we're doing it, let's do it together. So we moved down, wound up, we got land next to them right now, and, you know, began doing a number of things. We pretty much had $10,000 in hand, cash. So we got rid of our debt by selling our house. I had tried to pick up some silver from Northwest Territorial Mints. I had about $850 worth of the children's savings and about $5,000 of our money, and I just wanted to put that aside so that it would be able to be there, and there's a degree of separation. I like having it in hand rather than in the bank or something, but cash I can just take out of the safe and go spend it like that. If it's silver, I've got a degree of separation between usability. You cannot walk into a gas station or a grocery store with a handful of silver and be like, here, I want to buy this stuff. So I have to first turn it into cash to be able to use it. So there's a degree of separability, which makes it easier to actually have as a savings. But Northwest Territorial Mint took my almost $6,000. And I guess some of the people here were pretty much looting the company, so they went out of business. They filed bankruptcy, and we've never seen anything from that. Silver would have been a good investment at that time. I just chose the wrong company to go with. I'd worked with them before, you know, bought stuff from them before. It just didn't work out this time. So we had $10,000 in hand, and I began working very hard down in the Ozarks. I was laying a lot of hardwood flooring. I was doing traveling some traveling handyman stuff. I was doing some construction, and eventually wound up doing lawn care. And the lawn care would take us many states that we would drive around through and work in. You know, I lived down in Arkansas. There was a number of stores in St. Louis, Missouri, which is, you know, over like 5 hours away, that were on our to-do list. We'd have to go there and cut them. So I'd be gone for days on end. It was really the most I was leaving my family ever, because I used to be home, even if I worked, you know, 5, 6, 7 days a week at the time. I'd be home by 2 a lot of days. So I was actually, you know, away from my family more, but I had the goal and I had the vision. Eventually we bought our land, but that pretty much wiped out our savings. And then one of the reasons I mentioned my trailer at the end of my video still at the moment is, you know, don't post for free, and I mentioned Steemit.com. And one of the reasons I do that is that Steemit came out in 2016. It's kind of this cross between social media and blockchain technology, where people actually get paid in cryptocurrency, or can potentially get paid in cryptocurrency for the content they share. So whether it's, poetry, short stories, recipes, videos, photos, whatever it is, they could potentially earn cryptocurrency for it. I had never been online really before Steemit. I could watch a YouTube video, check out a Craigslist post. I think I sent a couple emails, but that was about it. I was not an online guy. I prefer to be out in the wild, out in the woods, whatever it may be. So sometimes I refer to Steemit as the spider that got me caught in the World Wide Web, because it enticed me to come online, and it did begin to become financially beneficial for me to be online. Things went so crazy on Steemit that I actually was able to buy a mobile home to put on our property outright. I was able to pay for a lot of things and earn the most I had ever earned in my entire life in a single year by cashing out some crypto that I earned from Steemit.com. I don't take that lightly. And right after we had our 5th child, Buddy Pepper, the guy I was working with, and I told him I'd, do these lawns for the whole year. I signed up for that season. He told me, you're doing well enough online, you don't really need to leave your family. Why don't I find a replacement for you and you stay home? So Buddy Pepper will turn 2 this month. That means in the past 2 years, I have not had to leave my family for work. I want to repeat that once. In the past 2 years, almost, I have not had to leave my family for work. I came down with the crazy vision of trying to unite my family. I came down with a dream of self-sufficiency just because it's cost effective. Everything we grow ourselves, everything we can do ourselves is one less thing I have to go earn money for, pay taxes on, and then, purchase with whatever the leftover is. Everything we can do together. So when I'm writing books, when I am running an online, seed store, when I'm putting YouTube videos out which are monetized, when I'm putting things on Steemit or Whale Shares or WeCube, or sharing, just my content in these different areas, I'm not just trying to hustle. I'm not just trying to, be some guy, here, buy my product. But every single one of those things allows us to be together as a family. My cost of living right now is not very much. I do not have rent. I do not have a mortgage. We're on grid, so I pay electricity. And we have, like insurance stuff that we got to take care of. The biggest and hardest thing for me right now, honestly, is taxes. Just because I made so much the other year that I had to pay in tens of thousands of dollars in taxes for 2016, or 2017. 2018, it hurts. It's really hard. And I probably will not earn as much this year, so hopefully that'll start being a little better, a little easier to deal with. But that was the hard part. So at the moment, I'm just trying to take that freedom that I have, that God has given me. I'm not some amazingly creative, intelligent guy with, 5-step plan to success and financial freedom and, whatever you want to call things. I'm just a guy who happened to say, you know what, this seems like a better option. This seems like what God wants. And thankfully, I was able to get there. I'm going to show you guys something for a second, too, because it's worth it. Like I said, I'm heading on a trip, heading over to Bobbleheads, but check this out. Oh, man. The sun just came up a little bit ago. I'm here with some of my children, heading out to bless a guy. That's a cool thing too about, homeschooling. These kids can work on stuff in the car. We can do a number of things. This sun just came up a bit ago. Man, look at that. I don't know if you guys can see all the fog down there in the valley. And then you've got this, which is absolutely beautiful. This is where we moved to. We've got a longer growing season, cheaper land, more freedom, a number of things. It's absolutely beautiful here. Man, I wish there's a beautiful mountain behind there, but you can still see some of it. I'm gonna back up just a hair more. I want that mountain. Yeah, it's there. You guys can kind of see it. But this is just kind of a little more of stuff for you guys to understand. And at the moment, I'll tell you what, like even having my YouTube monetized is so huge, and that's really helping with the financial obligations of our family. I've got some other things happening. I plan on releasing a couple more books this year in a variety of things. I've got one on eschatology, the study of end time events as revealed in the Bible, that I spent some time and some years making. Finally had the incentive to really put it out there. You know, we're running our online seed store where some of those wonderful plants that we love to grow and do well for us are now available to share with others. And part of what I really like about that is these plants grow well for us. They provide for our family. We're able to save our own seeds. We never need to buy those seeds again if we do good saving our own seeds. We have a surplus of them so we can share them with others. If others buy those seeds from us, they have to buy them from somewhere, but it's an investment in my family. I don't take that lightly. We do some germination tests and some things and take, like, you know, the highest quality control we possibly can. There's been a number of seeds I've not offered just because they didn't perform the way that I wanted them to, and I've had a number of people who've bought seeds from us tell us, you know what, I've got 100% germination on all these different seeds that you sold us. And the cool thing is, if they save their own seeds, they never need to buy that variety again either. To me, that is so huge. I think that there's a wise, intentional way of living, which is connected to your family, connected to the world around you, the real world, connected to your food supply, and these things that most people will never taste, they'll never see, they'll never get to be a part of, simply because they're on that hamster wheel, they're in that rat race, they're doing these other things with their life. They're paying interest to the bank as one of the primary things that they actually do in their life. I've got an upcoming video I plan on doing too called, how to play a credit card company. I don't like debt. I don't believe it's a wise choice. A lot of people say, it's a necessary evil. I don't believe that we should allow evils to be necessary, so much is dependent upon us. So I just kind of wanted to lay that down, guys. I don't feel like I've completely achieved all that we need to or want to or should, but we're on the path. We're working on it. We're moving forward. Things are working out better than they ever could if it was all dependent upon me. Ultimately, I think Jehovah Jireh, I think the Lord provides. I think that we just have a role in faithfulness, and we're trying to do it. So if you guys kind of wonder how I'm around my family so much, if you guys wonder why we're doing all these other things and why I link things like our seed store, like how to buy my book, or things in the comment sections, these are why. Because right now we need a lot less money than we used to, and if we're able to do different things like that to actually provide for the financial needs of our family, it's absolutely huge for us and something that we love. So that's kind of full disclosure, okay? Married for over a decade, I think over 11 years now. We've got 6 kids. We live in the middle of nowhere. We have a certain amount of freedom. We're enjoying life together, and that's where we're at. All right. If you got any questions, leave them in the comment section. But basically, that's what I was looking at sharing, guys. Papa out. As always, I'm Papa Pepper, and I'd like to remind you, don't post for free. If you'd like to be part of a revolution in social media, an economic power to the people where users can actually blog for cryptocurrency, then I'd recommend that you check out steamit.com and join the revolution. Papa out.